wife in the world. Thank you for phoning in, and we will do our best to work through this meeting as quickly as possible. So we will call this meeting to order. It's October 28th, 2019. We'll start the regular scheduled meeting of the Othello School District Board of Directors with the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome our guests this evening.
¿Habrá necesidad de traducción al español en esta noche para alguien? Gracias.
And move on to item A3, a motion to approve the agenda.
I would like to move a few things. Let's see if I can remember where I'm at. I would like to add, due to our executive session, I would like to add, now I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Personnel assignment order.
Personnel assignment order number 4, and make that C2, and move C2 to C3. And that is the only thing at this time I would like to change. Did I say I moved?
There's also, I would like to move
So if would be amendment to the motion?
to your motion. Let's see, C1-4 to a separate vote from the approvals. So it's a separate item.
Where do you suggest that one goes?
You were moving yours.
I
C1
I went to C2.
Let's just move it to C3.
So Ken, you're making a motion to remove the collective bargaining agreement between OSD and PSE to a separate item,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
So there's been an original motion by Jen to add item C3. There's been an amendment to the motion.
I was C2.
Sorry, C2. Amendment to the motion to move C1-4 to item C3. That's what's on the table now. Is there a second?
I will second that.
You
Well-
amended.
amended motion.
So it's down that way.
I'll second that.
So there's been a second by Director Garza. So motion by Director Stevenson, amended motion by Director Johnson, second by Director Garza. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Good motion, Tyson. I'm glad you can hear us. All right. So before we refresh, we'll go ahead and move on to item B1, public comment. Has there been a request for comment? Okay. We'll then move on to item B2, board member discussions. So the first item is legislative report. Jen?
So it has been brought to my attention by an employee in the district, their concerns about SEB. I don't even know what SEB stands for. School Employee.
Benefits Board.
Benefits Board.
Thank you, Benefits Board. Great. I'm glad that there are people that know these details about that and employees being able to have that and Apple Health or having Apple Health over that. I was on the phone for an extended period of time with SEB today. They could not answer my question. I also had talked to other specialists and experts on it that still couldn't answer my question. I'm still working on getting the answers to that. For those that not apply, for those that still qualify for Apple Health through the state, are they required to pick up SEB and drop Apple Health, or can Apple Health be a secondary? And all of those kinds of details are the questions I'm trying to answer, because it sounds like there's a lot of confusion out there. I still don't have an answer, because it sounds like there's not just confusion by those in our district, but those at the state level as well.
As with all new things, right?
Yay, new things.
Okay. Anything else?
That was it for legislative report for me today.
Okay, the next item is the WASDA regional meetings. As we said, we're going to keep that in there. Any more discussion the board wants to have regarding that?
The one that's left for the year, I'll be out of town, so I won't be able to attend on the 7th.
So on the 7th, you can't go? You can't either, Ken?
No,
Are
I
you
can't
saying?
either on that night.
Okay, so we should change our reservations to 3? Is it too late to make those changes?
I don't know that we've made reservations, have we? We have. Okay. I'm trying to think that something might have popped up on the 7th for me as well. It's not in my calendar if it did. Okay. So then the next item is discussion regarding student representatives. The last board meeting, there was talk about kind of coming up with an idea of what we want to do moving forward for our open student representative position. And then also for training and interviewing for even the next position. So let
I
me know
think
your
that
ideas.
Taylor had some comments for that one.
You can
Is
mute
that-
that for now.
Is that medical talk or?
Mhm.
Mute it. No.
For those that are
Because
not
we have a
aware,
violation
Tyson
going
is
on
at the
right now.
hospital preparing, his wife is preparing to have a baby. And so he's on speaker so that we can make a vote at this meeting. So we might get some fun details.
So,
This is the first.
a little bit of comments that I had about the student rep meeting was more of concerns with the lack of student rep info regarding the student rep meeting. I noticed there was about an hour and a half about conversations and information about the board. While it is important for us student reps to understand what the board is, there was maybe 15, 20 minutes about what the student rep does. So I remember last year, Isabella and I, our concerns were appealing to the kids because that's who our target audience is. So I feel like that was something. I talked to a couple of the candidates afterwards, and they said it was a lot of pressure. Similar to when I talked to the candidates last year who didn't apply because they did feel like it was a lot of pressure. So I feel like instead of just picking everything that was wrong with the presentation, that's not going to get anywhere, I would like to present a solution, which maybe we could have a student rep info meeting purely about student reps and what they will do and what regards them on the board. And then with those who have either the chosen candidate would be ideal, but if you guys want to do that to those who have actually applied, then go into depth with what the board does. Because I feel like it doesn't really, take this with a grain of salt, doesn't really matter in their minds. Because they don't really understand it, and they did, like, we don't vote, we don't get elected through zoning, and I forgot what the word was. But, so that's what I have noticed, Isabella has noticed, and some of the candidates that we have asked, and the applicants who never did apply, noticed.
Do you feel like it's a lot of pressure to be a student rep currently?
Not as much pressure as those students are feeling.
Okay.
So I understand that, yes, there is pressure and there's responsibilities to be on this board and to present myself as a board member. However, these students are freaking out about it because they think they are controlling the superintendent, that they are the ones that are going to change all these people's lives, when that's not what we're here for. Because, like, we can't vote. So I feel like they believe that, like, with that presentation, it gives the impression that they're the only ones on the board. Does that make sense? Because we do say that the student reps are a part of the board. Like, we are, but we're also kind of not, if that makes sense. Like, in my eyes and in Isabella's eyes as well.
I don't think it could hurt to try that method.
What we're doing so far is not working.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that outright, but
I got it. I got you.
I think
Okay.
we read that, right.
So I took a look today at some other schools that have student representatives to the boards. And the ones I looked at, primarily ones that had policy governance in place. And surprisingly, the ones I did find, the board did not have too much to do with it. They left it all up to either superintendent, or they left it up to ASB, or principals of the schools.
So you're saying like appointed, not
Yes,
board
for,
chosen?
for example, Federal Way, all their students are called scholars. It is, they have what they call a scholar advisory to the superintendent. Students that are amongst that. And from there, that particular group will select 2 out of that to represent the scholars of the whole school of Federal Way to the board on their meetings. I found 3. What I did is went down through the list of policy governance schools that we actually listed on our policy governance list. Yes, training. And went down through each one of them and looked, and quite a few of them did not have policies listed for student representatives, or they didn't have student reps. I did find 3 of them that did print their policies to it. Arlington School District, these are the duties: represent the students of the district through communication with the board of directors, convey student opinion to the board regarding items under consideration, and report to the associated student body regarding board deliberations and actions. Their selection process: student advisors are selected through an application and interview process only.
Same as ours then. That sounds very similar to ours. I'm guessing Tony, I think, came up with the original policy, and I'm guessing that's probably how he did it too, looking at these.
Can you talk into your mic, please?
I was told that I didn't have to do that now. Can everyone hear me? Rigo?
She said no. She's in the back row. She
He's
said
here
no.
now. I'll get excited about that one.
North Mason, this is GP 2.E6. North Mason High School, ASB will recruit, interview, and select 1 or more students as student board members, and 1 student as alternative. So that's through the ASB, does that one. And their job description is pretty much as the first one that I read. Mercer Island. The process for selecting representatives from Mercer Island High School shall be determined by the Mercer Island High School principals, ASB, and the superintendent. The terms of service for the student representative will be for the upcoming school year from September through June. Student representatives on the board are expected to attend at least 1 regular meeting per month. The student members will contribute to the board discussion by providing student insight and perspective, serve as liaisons for the associated student body of the Mercer Island High School, and report to students with work of the board and the district activities. Surprisingly, one of these actually let the student representatives vote on issues, but it was only as an advisory, as an ex officio vote, but they would let them vote.
Well, what does the board think of that information?
Does that sound less stressful, Taylor?
it sounds more clear, I guess is what makes more sense. Because during my application, I was told, okay, you're going to be on the board and you're going to provide student input and you're going to do a report. So I said, okay. And then we get on the board, but then there's a lot of things that don't really make sense to me. Like I understand how the board works, but I don't really understand my part in it. So I feel like that was really well worded to what I do.
Which one?
I liked the second one, the Mercer Island.
Here, I'll just hand you all three. These are actually the printed.
So which part did you feel was more clear about your duties or their duties?
Oh wait, I just messed all of this up. Wait, where was it? Wait, okay, hold on. I just lost it.
I got all night.
Oh, okay.
Tyson's kind of in a
I was gonna say
hurry.
Tyson doesn't. I liked the represent the students of the district through communication with the board of directors, and then report to the student like the ASB regarding board deliberations and actions. So I feel like that makes a little bit more sense into instead of just like reporting and talking at you guys and like maybe it'll make sense, maybe it affects you guys. It's more of communicating what the students are feeling. If that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense in my mind.
Did some of the policy governance training scare a few of them off or detour them?
It was almost all of them.
Okay.
That it was the policy governance, and so I thought it was useful when we were already chosen to understand. Okay, this is so you're. Sorry, let me start over. I liked it if the application process could be with this is what you are going to do as a student on the board, and then once you're chosen and that is what you want to do and you guys believe that this would be a person who is fit, then this is what the board does behind the scenes, because I don't get to see any of it. I don't have any part in it, if that makes sense. So it's kind of scary, I guess, to tell all these students this is the big scary legal stuff that these adults do, but like you just like sit there, if that makes sense.
So-
That's what I felt like the
So
meeting was about.
you feel it would be better to do the policy governance training after the student has been, knowing that they will have this training
Yes.
afterwards?
So essentially going back the way we did it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was more realistic, because I noticed when I know like I can't say like names and stuff. I noticed the people that when I was like during my specific, I want to say like
Interview process?
My interview process was like those people that I was with, because of course we talked about it because we're kids, and it was like a lot of people that I know, and then I saw some of them back again, and they didn't want to apply anymore. They weren't excited to apply. You know what I mean? After the policy governance training, the first one that we did, like when for Isabella to leave. So that's what I noticed. And what I also really, really like is the appointed by the ASB, because like I feel like it's important for students who want to be represented to know who they're represented by. Instead of like 4 months into the school year, hey guys, I'm your student representative on the school board, talk to me about these things and I will talk to you about these things. Instead of having them openly know as a student, as a person who is, say I'm like, theoretically if I was not a student on the board, I would like to know who my people are and how they operate and have a say, because that's essentially what, like my understanding is how you guys are elected is by like, not students, but is people in your district and you run.
So like when they elect student body officers, elect at the same time is what you're saying?
That's, yeah. I mean, of course, it would be difficult to do that now because we're halfway through the school year, but I feel like that would be probably the most accurate description. And of course, like, I know the stigma is the popular kids get it, but then the board would have a say. Or say the principal would appoint, or the one that says that, like, student reps would be appointed by certain people, and then have those as your candidates.
So hand-selected candidates that would then choose whether they wanted to run or not, is what you're saying. So not everyone could
Yes.
run.
So the candidates who abide by our regulations and that are nominated by community members, by like, do you know what I mean? Like, who other people believe would be great and would succeed, but then out of that pool, have them run. There we can get every student's input, so we know exactly who we're representing.
So Taylor, the current policy on student reps says 2 high school student representatives will serve as advisors to the board of directors. The role of the student advisors will be to, number 1, provide student insight and perspective to the board of directors and district administration. Number 2, serve as a liaison to the students of the district through the established student government and communication networks. Number 3, report to students about the work of the board, of the school district, and the board of directors. Then it says the student representatives will be bound by all applicable rules and regulations pertaining to the elected board members. The student representatives will participate in board discussions, but will not have the right to make motions, vote, hold board offices, or attend executive sessions. What is distinctly different in the one you were looking at you liked from that?
I would say the wording to me when it says that students will not hold offices, to me, like, I understand that, like, the board members, they can hold their committees, they can be the head of, so on and so forth. But I believe that, like, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I feel like it could be a little clearer as to what we do. Like, I understand it seems like to you guys who live, breathe, and eat like policy governments and understand the wording. I feel like, but you know what I mean? Like, you guys are used to the way things are worded, and you're used to this. But I feel like if we want to make that more comprehensible, I feel like, I don't mean dumb it down, but maybe make the wording a little bit more straightforward as to, like, I understand the advisors, but then the students that are also, let me pull it up real quick. That's which one? 14.
GP 14.
GP 14. When it says, serve as a liaison to the students of the district through the established student government or policy communication networks. I feel like when it says established student governments, like, that's talking about like the ASB officers, right? All
Or
that stuff?
any, yeah, that would be one, I think, one of the governments that I'm assuming different school districts maybe have different established governments, and so that's why they're being broad with that term.
I feel like it's not necessarily in that one. It's not necessarily a wording issue, as I thought before, and then I like actually looked at it and understood. I feel like because the students of the districts should serve as a liaison to the student governments, I feel like the student government should be aware who their representatives are.
Completely agree.
Because that's another reason why I was thinking.
Whose job is that, the board
No, that would
or the student rep?
That would be the student rep job. That's why in the application process, when we were saying hand-picked candidates, but candidates who will run, I feel like that would help. Like, yes, I can go up to them and say, hello, yes, my name's Taylor Taff, I'm your student rep, all of this stuff, but it's not the same to have students vote on me, if that makes sense. Like, I will do all that I can now, because you can't change. I can't, like, rerun in the middle of a session. So that's what, sorry, there's so many things running through my mind right now. I'm trying to get them all.
I like the idea of the student body having some kind of an election process. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. So basically what I see here is that actually the wording and the job description is pretty much the same as what some of the other schools are doing. It's just the selection process of getting that we need to refine.
My only fear is that it would be a popularity contest.
Yeah, that's what, that would be one of my fears too.
So we could do maybe that. Maybe they're all nominated, and then they ultimately interview
Yeah.
to pick the two or something,
Mm-hmm.
or the one if there's only one position available at that time.
We have
I'm open.
one that comes due January 1, and one that is closer to the I think it's July 1. And so I think that's an interesting idea for the July 1. And not that we couldn't change the January 1, but we do want to have some kind of overlapping system from one person to working in the other. So is there a way we could do both concepts? The July 1 representative would be elected by the student body after hand selected, but then the school board elects the one, interviews, and does the January 1. This is confusing when they're both J months. So I don't know.
I feel like one issue is with that is first we have to get people to apply. So is revamping the whole policy government's training that evidently has not worked. How do we change that and appeal that to more kids?
Well, it sounds like in what you're suggesting, that wouldn't happen. It would really come from the students on who is recommended to apply in the first place.
As of right now, how would we, like, that's what I was thinking. It's like, as of right now, I feel like that would be more of a, maybe closer to, maybe for the July, we do the elected. Because, I mean, there's already going to be ASB elections. So then I feel like that would be best. But my mind is immediately going to, how are we going to get that, who's going to replace me? I guess is what I'm trying to say. How are we going to get that student there? What do we have? Because I know the way it works at the high school, there's a huge assembly, and then everybody does their spiel, and then they, like, I don't know, throw their candy or whatever skit they have going on. But I feel like this one should be more educational and professional, because this is more of a professional situation or a more professional position rather than just, you know what I mean, like as opposed to ASB president. I feel like it shouldn't be exactly the same as, I don't know how to explain this, have it not be exactly the same as somebody running for, say, ASB president, but it should have the same aspects. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because it's, I don't know.
Elected by the student body who they represent. Yeah.
I was just thinking of the logistics of it. Like, literally, how is that going to happen?
I don't know.
And, like, soon, because...
Well, I think we've discussed this probably enough, but where do we want to go from here?
Sounds like we need to have a meeting where we're not going to discuss policy governance. We're going to maybe take the requirements and simplify them in terms that they understand that, you know, you're going to go to the meeting, you're going to bring any input from the students, you're going to take it to the board will give you some ideas, what they can and can't do, you report back to them, and just simplify it more, I guess, and get them to apply. And then once they're here, we can expand on the policy governance portion of it that pertains to them, I think. And maybe they'll be less intimidated.
That sounds, yeah. That's exactly what.
What if we went and met with leadership of all grade levels at the high school, DOHS as well, obviously 2 different meetings, I think. And I think if there's even leadership people who say, this person may not be in leadership right now, but they would be great for that, since they know them, and then make recommendations. Maybe that would be how we reach out, and after that, leave it up to leadership to find their people.
There was one school district, I can't remember right now, that's actually how they did choose. They chose their representative from the leadership group.
We kind of started that way. When I first started, it was leadership who was on the board probably for the first few. I mean, for the most part, it wasn't a requirement. It's just kind of the way it worked out.
So meet with leadership of DOHS and OHS.
Yeah, I don't know that we would meet with all leadership, because they don't just know the people in their grade. They know people of different grade levels, I guess, too. I was thinking seniors wouldn't be applying, but they might know a junior or a sophomore who might be someone who would be good.
Because there is 2 periods, so we could have them pull them out of class during first or something.
Or come twice.
Yeah, we just have to have Dr. Hurst work that out with the principals, and then let us know as a board when those opportunities are. We could probably go, maybe what we could do is have 2 board members go to DOHS, 2 board members go to the high school, and
Mhm.
do it that way.
I would like to be there
I'm
for
open to that.
both of them. So would they
Yes.
not go on at the same time? 'Cause I would like to be a part. I would like to be more involved.
I think that the chance that they would be asked to be the same day, same time would be pretty
Okay,
remote
awesome.
anyway.
Right. Okay.
So what's our next steps? Do we want Dr. Hurst then to find out from the principals when a couple board members could come meet with, meeting with them all in one space would be great, but I don't know if that's too many kids.
That's a
Right.
lot of kids.
How many are in leadership in each grade level?
I have no idea, if I'm gonna be honest. I know it's
But
2
you know it's a lot.
pretty full classes. So, because it's freshmen, sophomores, and then juniors and seniors are in one class, and then the other.
2 classrooms isn't a big deal to me, I don't think. Just a matter of where, I guess, so maybe find out what our option would be there. It'd be nice to just do it in one meeting to explain. If it's gonna be just explaining what board members, or what student reps do, that's
Right.
an easy explanation. We think we can do that in one
Mhm.
50-minute period or whatever they are, around 50, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any input from Tyson? He's still there?
Can we hear Tyson, or we like totally shut down the volume? Are you there, Tyson?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that discussion?
No, I think it all sounds good. It makes sense that from the things we've seen in the past, it sounds like we're gonna make some good changes. I think the students will respond.
I do have a question, Taylor. Are you planning on attending WASDA conference this year?
Yes.
Okay, do we want to discuss that anymore, or are we ready to move on? Okay, so we'll move on to student representative reports.
I get to talk a lot today. Honestly, maybe 3/4 of my reports was about student rep, like their insight. So the only other thing I have is extracurriculars. I apologize for my absence at the last meeting, still in Alaska. The volleyball team took first in the whole tournament, and then we had Alyssa Freeman and Hallie Paris were selected for the like the first team, or the like elite team. I guess I don't remember what they called it. So we had last home football game was last Friday, and I don't remember when senior night for soccer is, but senior night for volleyball is tomorrow. So a lot of our fall sports are coming to an end, and it's very emotional, but we are some students are still preparing for winter sports. So we're just kind of in that awkward turnaround, and that's really all I have, honestly.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on then. Well, if you haven't refreshed your screen, go ahead and do that. And our next item is item C1, required approvals.
I move that we approve the required approvals.
Been a motion by Director Stevenson to approve.
I will second that.
Second by Director Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item C2, personnel assignment order number 4.
I move that we approve personnel assignment order number 4.
Been a motion by Director Stevenson to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Director Roylance.
Does Director Roy Nance aware of number 4?
I
Who
hope
was-
so. Seconded.
Does he have that in front of him?
Director Roylance, okay, you understood what the personnel assignment number 4 was in regards to
Yes.
from their executive session? information? I don't think I heard.
No, I have the information in front of me, but
Yes.
I'm unaware that was the executive session, so maybe I should abstain from that because I missed that meeting.
Okay. So, this is new for me. I guess there's been a retraction of the second. So there's still a motion on the table. And it looks like that motion will die for lack of a second. Okay. So we'll move on to item C3, collective bargaining agreement between OSD and PSE.
The reason why I pulled this one off was I will have to abstain from this vote on this because my wife is a PSE member.
I will be joining Director Johnson as my wife as well as part of the PSC.
Okay. So with that, we'll accept a motion for that item.
I move that we approve C3, collective bargaining agreement between OSD and PSE.
Been a motion to approve by Director Stevenson,
I'll second.
and a second by Director Roylance. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0 with 2 abstaining. There's some smiles in the audience, Tyson, and happy people that are appreciative of that call-in. Okay, next item is item C4, superintendent informational items. Is there any questions for clarification?
So I've got a few.
No, do.
Okay. I noticed the 600 wing is on here. Current status, have we got any current reports on that?
Absolutely. So we have both Orlin and Greg here because there's 2 items that's embedded in that 600 wing concerns. One is about the leakage and one is about the mode airborne study that we've done. So we're going to have maybe Orlin, if you can give a historical perspective about what's been happening with the leakage. And then maybe Greg, if you can come up and talk about the other piece.
Okay, so that 600 wing was built in '77, and the original roof held up pretty well until somewhere in the early 2000s. I started having problems with it, and I had several different contractors in over the years. Most of them did not want to mess with it. It's a difficult roof because it's a flat roof and has parapet walls and it has downspouts that come off the top of the building. And so in '77, I got some bids to have it reconditioned.
07, you mean, right?
07.
Yeah, what'd I say?
77.
77.
Were you around?
We know what you meant.
77?
I was almost here at that time, so. In '07, I had it reconditioned, and they redid the roof, and within a year, I was still having some leakage, and so it was just, a nightmare. Over the years, I've had other people come in and tell me, well, we think it's a ridge cap. Well, we think it's these scuppers, and on and on. And we kept working on these areas where they told me there was problems. They didn't want to do it, so we just did the best we could. And yeah, so in 2007, I did get contractors to redo had Jeff Dallin redo the roof. And like I said, within a short time, it was leaking again, and we've just been trying our best to chase the leaks and try to keep them out. We haven't had total success. I just had another contractor come in and work on the high school gym and on the 600 wing, and he has probably done better than anyone else has in a very long time. I think he got all the gym leaks, got 3 out of the 4 scuppers to quit leaking. Unfortunately, the one that's still leaking is right over the network switch. And he is planning on coming back in. I've talked to him several times since the last leakage. And he is planning on coming back in and trying something else.
So 4 areas were leaking before and after he worked on it.
There
It's
are
down to
4
one.
downspouts, and every one of them, I believe, are leaking.
Okay.
And it's a metal roof, and the urethane that's on top of there, it's so hard to tell where it's leaking from. And this is just what the contractors that I had come in and give me advice is, all of them were all pointing fingers at these scuppers, and they're saying like the water would go over the edge and it'd fall and come back in like this, and then it'd get on those metal rafters and it'd travel, and so you couldn't tell really where it was coming in.
Tyson's wife's having a baby. Can he hang up? I know that he's supposed to be here for the entire meeting. I think this is an extenuating circumstance. He's
For-
texted me. I don't,
For me, it's strictly a legal issue, and I think Ken had brought this up before.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately, that if they're going to be on the phone, it does, I think, state that they need to be here for the whole meeting.
but what if
But this is
Mike was to get up and
extended
walk out right now?
circumstances,
Would
yes.
we have to call the meeting?
But he's on the phone, so he was calling. So it
I
may,
think he got cut off. I'm not positive.
you know what,
Tyson,
yes.
are you still there?
I would
Well,
excuse him. I
Dr.
think
Hirsch
we-
will text the
I
attorney
think we
quick
could
to find
excuse
out.
him, yes. I would have no problem excusing him.
Right.
We'll
if
know
we
soon,
need to.
Tyson. Anyway,
That's all I got.
so, well, okay, so you're going to talk then about the safety issue. Okay, thank you, Roland.
Any questions you want me to directly answer?
I have questions about, so in this letter, it says, there was a title.
Building industrial hygienist?
There we go. What is that? Say that again?
Building industrial hygienist?
That's a new
Took me a while to find
title.
someone.
Right. What is that?
They are the people you would call in to look for asbestos or mold or help you with a problem with air quality with inside your building.
Okay. Great.
The company we called it actually has done a lot of asbestos abatement certifications for us. They do the air quality testing.
So
not the
they
actual
haven't
abatement.
come yet, or they have come?
He came out, he
Okay.
did a quick walkthrough and interviewed staff in the building, and we walked around the building. We went upstairs, went on the roof, looked at it. He went back to his office to write up a proposal of what he thought he should test for, what we should look for ourselves, how much it will cost, and then he went on vacation and I haven't received it yet. His voicemail said he was back today, but he hasn't returned my phone call yet.
When was the original walkthrough? Do you know have a date?
It was originally in there, October 8th? No. September 5th?
October 10th?
October 10th.
Is
Yep.
that?
Yep.
Okay. That's a nice vacation.
So that's where we're at now. We're awaiting the results.
We have that. On top of that, yeah, we have results from a airborne mold test that we did ourselves. And we did a visual mold inspection and couldn't find any visual mold within the building or up above the ceiling. We also, I printed this out and some copies for you. We use MERV 8 air filters which are supposed to catch mold spores if they're in the air. And this is just a chart of the different sizes. We're looking at moving up to the MERV 11 or the MERV 13, getting costs and estimates on that. You want one too, Taylor?
So what testing have you already done? Which MERV?
Well, this is an air filter we utilize now in the building, is MERV 8.
You're on a MERV 8 currently.
On a MERV 8, which catches lint, household dust, pollen, dust mites, and mold spores.
Okay. Did you say that you had done an air survey yourself?
We did a visual inspection
Right.
where we went in and pulled and looked for mold, and then we just said, it's just a Petri dish you buy and you leave it in the room for an hour.
Okay.
Then you cap it and you leave it for 24 hours, see if mold grows. And then it says in the instructions, if you see visual mold growth, you send it in for testing.
Okay.
If you don't see visual mold growth, it's not required to test, but we sent it in anyway.
So you saw,
No, we did
you
not.
did not see any, but you sent it
We
in
sent it in
anyways?
anyways, said test it anyways. The only thing they found in there was standard dust that's in the air in our area.
Okay.
Is there a way to test the air filters on your intake to see if they are collecting mold spores or?
Mold spores.
Yes.
There is a way, and that's what the dental hygienist will do. If he,
You said
or,
dental
sorry,
hygienist.
building,
Building
industrial
hygienist.
It was
hygienist.
bound to happen. It was either him or me.
Right, right.
Back in 77.
77. If he feels that's something we should be testing for after his inspection or based on his analysis, he'll bring in a more sensitive machine than what that little Petri dish will do for us.
Piggyback on that, Greg, there's no physical, on these filters that we currently have, those have been inspected, I assume?
No physical mold. No, they were replaced the minute we got a concern. We went and checked those and replaced those.
How often are they typically changed?
We
The
changed-
MERV 8s?
The filters, we change them right before school starts, Christmas break, and spring break,
So 3 times a year?
3 times a year,
Okay.
whether they're dirty or not.
But you're considering going to a MERV 11 that would also catch pet dander, smoke, smog, and cough and sneezes.
Yes, I started looking at that when I started learning more about the wildfires we've been having. And if we can get the smoke filtered out, currently, if we do a lockdown for our students and we keep them inside because of the smoke, we turn the ventilation systems off.
Oh.
If we could filter the air, the smoke, we could essentially leave those on. Keep it a little cooler or warmer if it's depending on the time. But I mean, our current protocol shut everything off. We don't want to bring any contaminants into the building if we can't filter the air.
Okay.
Another concern that kind of arises when you talk about water leaking, especially for as long as it's been leaking, and running on steel and running all the way down it, is the steel itself, the fasteners that hold that building together, and rust. Has it been looked at to look at the structural
Is it steel
integrity?
trusses or wood trusses?
Steel trusses,
Okay.
Galvanized?
no, painted with that thick red anti-rust paint. I haven't seen any of my inspections, any heavy rust. Another thing we do with all our buildings is we get at least 10% outside air all the time. This particular building, the outside air dampener is controlled on discharge air temperature. It tries to maintain about a 65-degree discharge air throughout the building. So it's actually, this building's open a little bit more than others because the building's old and it loses heat really quick. And then another option that we have looked at and we've done in the past is a personal in-room air filtration device set in the room that has a 5-stage HEPA filter and a UV light in it for our more sensitive staff. And that's shown some success for some people. So we're going to try that too for the individuals that are more sensitive.
So you said sensitive staff. What about if there are sensitive students? Is that also something that's,
I've never got a concern brought to me about that,
okay?
but we would
Like
definitely.
especially for those rooms that have students that are in them for, like, so I toured a bunch of the classrooms today in 600 Wing. The sped room is in there. So I assume that they would stay in the sped room for longer than just one class period. Like if there was other than, anyways, okay. You haven't had that brought to you?
I haven't brought to me, but I think about that. They don't call me the Sensi Police for nothing. I mean, trying to get rid of this.
I wasn't aware of that title that we
Yeah.
have for you. Sensi Police, okay.
Yeah. So in my trainings with the health department, I mean, they don't recommend any, harsh chemicals, any harsh scents. They want, dye-free hand soap, mild detergent hand soap. There's a lot of things that I've noticed in schools that would be, can affect kids like that. And so I've been bringing that to the attention of Dr. Hurst and all the staff that, hey, we need to be watching for these things too. So, and I haven't gotten any feedback on that, but we're looking at that too.
Other than the title that you currently have, right.
Yeah, the chief of police gave me that one.
Oh, that was nice. That was from someone on the outside.
Anything else?
I do have another roofer coming in, and I'm gonna have him take a look again, just another opinion.
Outside of her,
Yes.
HUR? I assume you call it her.
Yeah, I call it HUR.
Okay.
But yeah, I do have another guy coming in. I think he's gonna be here Wednesday morning.
Okay, I don't know if this is the elephant in the room question, guys, and I don't know if you guys are the ones that answers this, but obviously there's been some observation by some folks, and some stuff's been said to the effect of electrocutions, computers damaged, all this other stuff. We are looking at these things, and we are not putting anybody in danger when this rains and this stuff is happening.
No. I can say, as soon as we hear anything, we're on it as fast as we can get there. I haven't heard any electrocution in that building, but
Okay.
we did have a student that could have been shocked or was shocked at another school, and we were over there doing everything we can to help out with that.
Can you explain there's a lot of buckets. Can you explain why so many buckets?
Because
Can you put the mic, sorry?
when the water runs along the metal, it'll drop off here, and it'll move on past that point, and it'll drop over there. And I'm just trying to catch them so that we don't have a big mess all over the floor every day.
So it's precautionary.
Yes.
It's not like all those buckets were half full at the end of the day, right?
Every time it rained, I'd send Travis over there to empty the buckets. And, he might have this much in the bottom and maybe a little more, I don't know.
Is there a plan in place that if we do get another heavy rain, even if it's during the day, as a precautionary measure to move students out of those rooms? So we avoid any chance of,
I don't know of that, but I have, even on weekends when it's rained, I've sent Travis in to make sure the buckets are not overflowing or anything crazy is gonna happen to where a bucket could get heavy and fall on a student or something like this. So we are very diligent in making sure the buckets aren't getting too full.
Where are the majority of the buckets?
Well, right now I don't have any in there except for right over the switch for the electronics. Yeah, right at.
So you're saying not in a classroom where there are students, but just where there's
I
electrical
did have
equipment?
them in there, but after this last HUR or whatever came in to work on them, we haven't had we pulled the buckets and we put back in the ceiling tiles because we want to know if we got leaks again or not.
Okay.
Okay. There's nothing else. Thank you for the update and the clarification on that
Yes.
and your diligence. Any other comments or questions regarding superintendent items?
I wanted to say something about this, what's this one called officially? From the desk of the Executive Director of Business Services Statement Correction. That's really long. At the last meeting, I had asked about a payment to Desert Sun Landscaping for $24,000, and Jeanette had said it was about blowing out the sprinklers. And then it was brought to my attention that our maintenance department blows out the sprinklers, and I thought, I've seen them blow out the sprinklers, so I made a phone call to maintenance and asked some questions and was informed that, let's see if I can remember the name of it. It's not Desert Sun, it's
Sun Rental.
Sun Rental is who they rent a generator, thank you. They rent a generator from Sun Rentals for $1,518, I think is what I was told, yearly to blow out the sprinklers. Desert Sun Landscaping was for, and as it says in the correction, regrading, installing sand, and placing new sod on the baseball fields. So, in fact, the person on the phone that I was speaking with in maintenance said, oh, I can totally see how this mistake was made. They both have sun. They're landscaping kinds of things. And so we both kind of chuckled about that potential and that they came from maintenance. So anyways, I thought that that was interesting. And please thank Jeanette for, I know that she's not able to be here because she's at a conference, for that clarification, because you know I'm the question asker.
I got a quick question while we're on that. We approved another 11,000 tonight for Sun. Was it related to the same project?
I believe that one was for sod for the baseball field at OHS.
Okay.
Correct, Amy?
Yes,
Yes.
and 2,900 to replace sod for the portable.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Want to report that we officially lost Tyson, but we also got the okay from the attorney. It was all right. Maybe our previous assumption was wrong. Okay. So we'll move on to item D1, board response to monitoring reports. There are two monitoring reports in this. One is EL8, the other is EL9. We'll start with EL8. The only area that was found to not be in compliance by all board members was specifically the question of failure to identify reports required by state and federal agencies and ensure accurate completion of the same. All required reports shall be submitted on or before the date required by the above agencies. 3 found in compliance, and 1 found in compliance with an exception. Obviously, there are a lot of reports that have to be submitted by our district to the state. But there's two comments in here. One said, in future reports, it would be helpful to show reports required and date due and submitted. The other one was, as mentioned in a previous board meeting, the 4-year budget plan summary was not submitted by the July 10th date as required by RCW 28A-5005-040. It was explained to us at the time that that was kind of a new thing, and it was acknowledged that part of it was overlooked. But nonetheless, whether the board agrees that was a report or not.
That's how I looked at it, is whether that budget was actually a report. I didn't see it as a report. I seen it as a budget item, the budget that's turned in. Now at the end of the year, when we turn in the financial report for the budget, that's different there. So that's how I was able to differentiate that.
So I put
And
that statement in, and I found it with the exception. It sounds like Ken doesn't agree with that as being an exception. How did the other 2 board members feel? I mean, obviously you didn't find it as an exception before, but understanding what has been put into, would you change your mind, or would you still say there is no exception?
I would say that because on the other, I don't even remember which EL it was.
Budget.
The budget EL, we did find out of compliance on that. I felt like it was already going to be noted, and so in this case.
Okay.
I think the exception should stay, if nothing else, as a reminder, perhaps.
So the exception or the comment?
A comment. Comment.
I think both comments are actually, the first comment, even if we kept that at the end of the entire EL, whether we found the whole thing in or out of compliance, because for the most part, I don't know all of the state dates. It would be convenient to see those on reports that have to be put in with the state.
It would be a nice piece of evidence to help
Yes.
the
Yeah.
report.
I would agree. I trust if the administration says to us that reports have been submitted on time, I trust that. I'm also okay with there being evidence, as long as Jen doesn't say, why is there a 95-page report this time?
What? I never say that.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't think it's mentioning, showing us the whole report, just dates, what report it is, dates due, and date entered or submitted.
Maybe a small footnote.
So are we saying that maybe both those items should just be general comments at the end of the
Yes.
monitoring and response document?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Clear on that? Yes. And there were no additional remarks there, so we'll move on to item EL9, communication with the public. These were all, or the one item was found to be in compliance by all who answered, and there are two comments. The first one is we must continue to remember the translation piece at every opportunity. And the second comment is every year it seems that the district has added new resources to keep the public informed of district work. While it is impossible to reach every individual in the way they would prefer to be reached, the district has done a very good job trying to accommodate the needs of the public in the language they prefer. Does the board want to keep either of those comments?
Both?
Jen likes both. Ken's
Both.
nodding.
Sure.
Mike says sure. There you go.
Well, I was going
Wait.
to say, number one is actually mentioned, where we're trying to accommodate the needs of the public with their language, and that's what I was referring to. The first comment's mine, so I think it's included in the second comment, so I think if we just kept the second one, I think it would capture what I was trying to say.
Getting a nod by Jen on that one.
I agree. It's the first sentence of the second.
All right, then we're keeping comment number 2. All right. Move on to item D2, board self-monitoring. There are 3 GPs in this monitoring cycle, and the first one I'm looking at is GP1. The board has found compliance in all areas of GP1, and in order to maintain its commitment to excellence and governance to the provisions of this policy and to improve on its own performance, the board commits to the following actions. Number 1, continued commitment to ensuring progress is being made toward the achievement of our ends policies, while at the same time updating or changing them should the need arise, state mandated rules or expectations. We go back up, make sure we're aware of what this GP1 is, board governance commitments and beliefs. The second comment is the board will do a better job this year conveying our belief that the ability to adapt to change is essential. And number 3 is we will continue to strive for the goals listed in our ends policies and to treat every person with value, respect, and love. Someone's changing a policy, sounds like.
I had a hard time coming up with a third word, and I felt like that encompassed it all.
I think love's a good one. Which of these comments would we like to keep? These are all commitments, right? Do we like them all?
Can I clarify what I meant by state mandated rule or expectation in comment 1?
Yes.
If there is something that comes down from the state that hires or lowers a specific assessment or some methodology that they use to set a standard for the district, if it's changed from the state, that if it's got to change our ends, that we're open to a change of that kind. That's what I meant by the parentheses comment. I don't know I guess that's the easiest way I can simplify that. Not that I want to change them, not that I want to lower the standards or anything like that, but if there is something where it's totally out of the control of the district to do so, that we're open to perhaps a change.
I think the part in your phrase saying changing them should the need arise, the state mandated things applies to that. I understand your perspective and stuff. I don't know.
I totally understand that, but I will tell you that if the state starts telling us what our end should be, I'm gonna have a problem with that. So, but I understand what you mean.
Right. Most of the time, those affect DOPs, district operating policies, and not board
Yeah,
policies.
probably EL sometimes too.
Possibly, right. But, and just because the state mandates things, we've already said we want a higher law, a more strict district operating procedure or our own policies than what the state is requiring. So,
Let me further clarify. I'm hoping the state doesn't come and tell us how to redo our ends. I was reminded of the attendance report that we got and how we have it. What we're using to get the percentages is different than what the state was using. We were at a higher standard than that. That made our scores lower because we were being super tough on it. That's what I was referring to. Not that I want the state to come and tell us what we want the
Yeah.
goals of our
right.
district to be. My intention wasn't that the state.
And I didn't take it that way,
Okay,
Mike. I was just
very
saying,
Yeah.
I think I know what you're saying. I just thought, and if the state comes in and starts saying, your students have to achieve this and start to define our values from our community,
No, within,
then I will-
within
I
our
would
end, some
fight
of the
for that.
reports, that report came to mind to me.
Yep.
Where if it was changed, if the methodology of how we're gonna calculate attendance was different than what the state was doing, and we felt compelled to change it, that we'd be open to that.
right? Gotcha. So, do we like all three comments? All right,
Yeah.
gonna keep those then. GP3, that is a board job description. The board found compliance in all areas. There is a comment specifically on item 2. And so item 2 is use appropriate avenues to ensure input from students, administration, staff, parents, and community members as a means to link the entire community. We need to continue to reach out to all of those listed, not just in our linkage meeting, which we need more of, but individually and on a daily basis. Okay? And then there was commitment to excellence in governance. First item said continue with our transparency in the monitoring process for evaluation purposes, not only of superintendent, but ourselves as well. And then the second item was the board will take a more active role in educating the public when it comes to facility needs and how to fund those needs. So those were specifically commitments that the board is making, right? For the upcoming year. What comments do we want to keep? The comment on question 2 obviously was an opinion, right? Would say.
yes.
Okay. So which ones would the board like to keep? None of them?
Say they also.
Night, yeah. And like I said, they're just comments. The policy was found completely in compliance, and they're just comments
Okay.
form.
Director Johnson wants to keep them all?
So even the third, the one that's under 2? Linkage meetings and more of those?
I'm getting down there right now. Look through. Yeah,
It's just it is a opinion.
Mhm.
If this goes into our report, it's going to be the opinion of the board as a whole.
Then we all have to say that that we need more linkage meetings and that we need to talk.
One-on-one daily,
I feel
or,
we
sorry,
kinda do that once in a
individually
while
and daily.
already, don't we?
It's my comment, so
Yeah.
I agree. But everyone has to as well, I guess. 3 of the 5 have to as well.
So it sounds like you and Ken agree.
Yeah.
I think we need to be more accessible, so I would agree as well.
I think it's a little specific myself, but I don't have a problem with it. I probably talk to people individually on a daily basis about board things, so I don't have a
Okay.
problem with it. Okay, keep them all.
Yep.
You sound like you wrote that expecting people to disagree with it.
Nope.
Okay. We'll move on to item GP4. Board found compliance with the one item there. There are 2 items for commitment to excellence. The board will continue to hold itself accountable to governing with excellence through meaningful self-assessments. And the second one is continue to follow our yearly calendar and modify as needed, so both we, the district, and the public can know what our schedules are for upcoming meetings. Is that GP4? That's a GP7, right?
Automatic as possible, I guess I was interpreting to mean calendaring of those that we keep. I guess it is more specific to the different one, but that I read it as automatic as possible, using time effectively.
That's monitoring our, we will monitor ourselves and our compliance as automatic as possible, I think. I think that's what I interpret it as. I think your comment's good, I just don't know if GP4 is the place for it. I'm assuming it's your comment.
It is my comment, yep.
I would have to agree. It's a good comment, but this is
Right,
the
I agree,
policy
you're right.
for it.
You're not offending me, it's okay.
Mike, will
Just
you
keep number
agree?
1.
Okay, so we'll keep comment number 1 for that. We'll move on to item E1. Any policy reviews? We have some in here that are, one's a final reading, 2 we left in here for more discussion on. So GP9, board member conflict of interest is in for a final reading. EL5 is the budget planning. And I think we wanted to have some information brought back about contracted employees, but Jeanette's not here today.
And contractors, too, that definition of.
So probably we just want to keep that in there till next meeting again, since she's not here. She was going to do some research for us on that. On how OSPI categorizes things when it comes to employees and benefits, right? Wages and benefits. Okay.
Correct.
I move that we approve GP9, which is E1-2, final reading.
Okay, if there's been a motion to approve GP9 as a final reading,
Second.
second by Director Garza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0, or 4-0, sorry. And then we have one more that we have on here, and that's GP 14.1.1. Is this something that anyone's ready to move on with, or we want to keep that in there as well?
I think we need to keep it in there because we've already had some great discussions and need to move forward with, are we modifying this? What do we do about
Okay.
this form?
So do we want to leave it in there for our next meeting
Yeah.
again?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so before we move on, it was brought to my attention that we approved the accounts payable in required approvals, and one of them was a payment to Johnson's Glass. My personal feeling is that is that is not a conflict of interest strictly because Ken did work, he's just getting reimbursed for it. If it was Ken trying to get paid for something he didn't earn, then I think that's the conflict, but I want to hear what your opinions are on this.
No,
It's one of those little items that,
I've read through that very, very closely too. And it does allow that I could do up to only $1,500 a month in business for the district too.
I think
So-
the question is whether or not you should have abstained from the
From
approval of
that.
it. And I don't, it's a formality in my mind. It's
I-
kind of like if we were getting
Yes.
reimbursed for mileage and we had to abstain from the vote just because we were in there for reimbursement for mileage. It's something that we are able to get. So this is
I have no
what
issue
you
with it.
determine.
What was the dollar amount in this case? I didn't catch that. Is it alphabetical?
Could be an auditor issue, I guess. So
$483.65. Yay. $483.65.
I don't want us to get into audit findings, so that would be,
So do we
have to void the
revote?
vote, I guess. And how do you void the vote? Just through my mentioning that we're voiding the vote?
You need to say it into your mic if that's what you're doing.
So I spoke to Paul right now over the phone, and he said what would happen is we would have to vote to void the vote with Director Johnson abstaining from that vote, and then re-voting to approve the accounts payable warrants again with him abstaining as well.
It's an interesting state of affairs these days in board meetings, and this is an interesting board meeting.
When you are in small towns and everyone's affected.
So, motion to
I
void the
move that
vote.
we void the vote for C1 required approvals.
Been a motion by Director Stevenson to void the vote for C1, required approvals.
Okay, well, I'm gonna interrupt that motion because my name was in accounts payable tonight, a reimbursement at a conference. So that's,
Tyson on the line still?
so before I second this or do anything like that,
Okay, can I amend that when is the time that this vote has to take place for payables to take place in a timely manner?
I'm going to make a comment that this is not the first time this has happened, and we've never had it as an audit finding. Just, Rico told me this will catch me if I'm like 5 feet away from it now.
I'm not hearing you microphoned. It's
said I'm
fine
great.
on YouTube?
So you need to stop telling us about having to be so close to the mic. I
I'm
think.
sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. I'm sorry.
This
Go
is-
on to say, what were you
No,
This is
going to
where
say
I'm at with
before?
it.
I was full disclosure, I mean, since it's
Yeah.
here, that's the only reason why I mentioned it.
Yep.
You're right, in the past, our names have been on there when you get reimbursed for a conference or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it has not been an audit finding, but since it was brought up this way and Mr. Johnson was mentioned, I gotta be upfront and say, hey, my name was on there as well.
What are we going to do? Do we want to call Tyson and see if he will do this vote? Or do we want to wait and do this next board meeting, which is 2 weeks? I don't know. You can you wait for these for 2 weeks?
Just that check.
Can we pull?
Can we pull both
Those
of their
checks and-
checks?
We can, that's,
I mean, I don't care if they get paid.
that was one of the options that our attorney did give us, so.
It solves this problem, I'm okay
So-
with it.
So but he said we have to vote to void it, and they have to abstain. So how are we going to void it with 2 votes?
Yeah, but he did also mention that at the next board meeting, we could also table it to the next board meeting and make a correction on there as well, but without making that check, sending it out for payment.
I would rather take both of the checks off and approve it. Just to have all due diligence done so that we're covering every base that we can. and then,
Until you get clarification from the attorney.
right, until there's other details from the
Which you'll-
attorney or whatever, and,
So where are we where would the audit give us a problem with just the approval of the vote, I would think, not whether or not we held the checks back or sent them. I believe the vote itself would be the audit finding if that's the concern. You ever dealt with one of these?
what do you suggest?
I don't know what to suggest, because now we can't void the vote because we only have 2 of us to void it.
Unless Tyson's available.
I don't
He's in
think
the
we should
room
call. I just,
So I guess if we just move forward, we've already
I could
approved
go.
it. It's what's done is done.
okay.
And if,
Well, then, yes, the void will have been voided because only 2 can vote on the void,
it wouldn't be,
technically.
No.
yeah, it wouldn't be a,
So we've
no vote.
unvoided the void.
Well, that was a motion that died for lack of a second anyway.
Okay, fine, whatever. The correct
Maybe-
term is.
Are you comfortable with that decision? Okay. All right, I think we're at item G1 now, upcoming events. Apparently, we need some training. Are there any questions about the events that are coming up? In case any of you didn't know, the general election is next Tuesday. But there are some dates in there for deadlines too, for voter registrations. All right, we're going to move on to item G2, Board Self-Assessment of Meeting. Please complete your survey.
Oh, wait, we did. We did. I don't know if that applies. I don't know. Yep.
Taylor, do you remember you can participate in Survey Monkeys for GPs, for board self-monitoring?
No, they're not
You can let us have it. Sure, that's your opportunity. All right, all votes are in. The agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board, 5 said commendable. The board followed its agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. 2 said commendable, 2 said good, I said poor. That's my fault. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. 5 said commendable. All board members participated in discussion, no one dominated. 3 said commendable, 2 said good. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations, 5 said commendable. Under governance principles, board actions occurred at a policy level rather than an operational level, 5 said yes. The board agenda referenced policy about each topic that was discussed, 5 said yes. The board chair helped the board efficiently conduct its meeting, 4 said yes, thank you all. I said no. The board supported the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies. 3 said yes, 2 said NA. And then under new or modified policies, did the board write a new or modify an existing policies during this meeting? I believe the answer to that was no. So the board started with a broad statement and became more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. 3 said yes, 2 said that was not applicable. And the board asked the superintendent to provide his reasonable interpretation of the policy. 5 said not applicable. Overall, this is probably one of our lowest scored meetings in quite a while, and rightly so. 1 said it was commendable, thank you. 2 said it was good, and 2 said it was satisfactory. There's a few items that I need to learn about, and as a president, find out about it when it comes to voting for required approvals for sure, so I will do my research on that. Our business is done, this meeting is adjourned.